Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session where we talk about the challenges, the trials, and tribulations of collaborating on large projects across the pond. Brief introductions. I'm Rina. I am the BIM manager at Marsh. We are an AEC firm based in the United States, and I am an Autodesk Expert Elite. My partner in crime, Nauman Mysorewala, is also an Autodesk Expert Elite engineering technology manager at Gannett Fleming and Trans Systems. That's new, Noman.
Yeah, that's the new thing.
It is. All right, so let's talk about the objectives of today's talk. We're going to briefly, very briefly, as a matter of fact, because, I could talk for hours and hours and hours about this case study that we're going to explain briefly. What we're going to do is we're going to take a few important parts of this case study on collaboration between firms in the United States and Europe. And we are going to address the important parts, not all of them. So in this project, in this process, I was the participant. Nauman was a very distant resource, lucky for him, because he had to put up numerous calls at all times of the day and night, of me asking questions or discussing stuff, or just plain simple freaking out, because why is this happening? But this should not happen this way. So we're going to talk about what could go right, what could go wrong, and all of the flying by the seats of our pants that actually helped us to accomplish goals.
Yeah, so Rina, I remember you bugging me all the time, but no, that's good. Or venting, and you can talk for a long time. I can tell you that, everybody. So besides that, let's talk about, you've been talking about this big project. You've been calling me on it, and that's been very challenging for you because of so many variables. Can you share your experience with the audience of one of the aspects that you ran into?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what the aspect that I'm going to address is the most important aspect, really, really crucial to the success or failure of a cross-continental collaboration. So this was really quite a learning experience. Some background. The project in question is located in the United States. We are contracted with the builder. There is a very large team of consultants based in the United States as well as in Europe. Now, here's the deal about our process. The project is a bit of a hybrid. So maybe we could call it a fast track project because construction starts once some parts of the design are complete. And as we finalize further design, construction continues. So this is a large industrial project, a complex made out of 5 buildings. And the collaboration took place using Autodesk Construction Cloud, and a lot of the data was transferred between project teams using Procore.
So, what's the backstory of your involvement with this project? Were you involved from the beginning on this, or what?
No, actually, I think that was the first challenge that I encountered. I started at Marsh earlier this year, and that was when I got involved with this project. When I came into the project, then the 5 buildings, because we are doing architecture and structure, the 5 buildings had been modeled in separate models. They were already at the CD stage. They were annotated. They were being sheeted. And we were gearing up for the clash detection project process. Now, as far as other disciplines were being handled by other consultants, and they had their own workflows for modeling. Some of them were modeling their content for each building at a time. Some of them were modeling for the entire complex. So it was quite a mixed bag of information that I came into earlier this year.
So, what were the tasks that challenged you? I know there are tons and tons of them, but can you highlight a couple?
Absolutely. So these are the tasks that were required of us in a perfect world. And you need to remember, as the process went on, the tasks kept on flexing and, maybe going up, maybe going down. So in a perfect world, these were the expectations of what needed to be done. Firstly, we were gearing up to prepare for clash detection. And So we're going to discuss the biggies, the coordination and the transfer of model information. And now for clash detection, which is what we were gearing up for. Our models and consultant models needed to be merged together into a federated model. Now, this was a requirement that came to us from the lead consultant who were going to carry out clash detection. Our models were located with reference to a pre-established reference point. That was it. It was not shared coordinates. And finally, at the end of the process, just before the model was ready for clash detection, all IFCs, all output from the consultants as well as from our team had to be merged together for a single coordination model. And again, this would then be transmitted over to the lead consultant.
Yeah, I mean, like what else? I mean, in your workflows was critical. I mean, how did you achieve that, or what was your trials and tribulations on trying to get all of the IFCs into a federated model for the whole complex?
Wow. Now, the first thing we had to do was we had to communicate to the consultants the location of each building model. So to start with that, and since our buildings were not modeled using shared coordinates or they were not even modeled with the mandated reference point, the first step that I took was I linked all of the models into a federated model. And then I grouped the links together and I moved them so that the reference point, the mandated reference point, sat on internal origin. Again, this was a mandate that had been transmitted to us from the lead consultant. Once this was done, then the locations of our models were set in stone. And that was what the other consultants needed to align their work with. Now, the advantage of this approach, because when I started moving models around, my team was frantic because we all know what happens, right? When you move Revit models around and Revit models in an advanced state, and my team was concerned that they might lose information. But with this process, no information was lost at all. And we were able to move the models to align in their correct locations, which is what was required. Now, when each model was exported out of Revit to IFC, here's what really surprised me, because let's face it, in the United States, IFCs are not a mandate. And up till maybe 6 to 8 months ago, I would not work with an IFC just because I had
Yeah.
this general mistrust of IFCs. So I was really pleasantly surprised to see that the IFCs that were exported out of Revit retained their correct position. Now,
Data, yeah.
exactly. So once we harvested input from the other consultants in the form of IFCs, then I brought those into our federated model, which wasn't too bad. Once I started exporting all of that information to form the single large federated IFC, that was when things kind of went south because the IFC was too big, and not only was the transfer really, really slow, but an unpleasant side effect. When the large IFC was uploaded to Procore and downloaded, there were chances of corruption taking place, and then the recipient of the file would not be able to open this.
Yeah, Serena,
So
yeah, I can see why. I mean, it's challenging that they didn't want you to do anything in their actual models, or we could have just
exactly,
accomplished everything with shared coordinates
exactly.
and whatnot, but they didn't want us to kind of, well, want you rather
Mhm.
to, do anything to the actual model. So that,
Exactly.
why you had to go through all that,
It
the
was
other
it was
route.
quite a process. So
Yep.
so once I realized that exporting a federated IFC out of Revit it's really, really slow. It was very slow, really slow. Then that called for some more research into alternative tools. And you know what? You wouldn't believe it. Navis turned out to be the tool of choice. It was much quicker and much more efficient.
Whoa,
Believe it or not.
wait, hold on. You exported IFCs out of
Yep,
Navis?
yep, absolutely. And now just
Oh,
hold your
okay.
hat and we will come back to this. But right now, let's go into how the coordination tasks were accomplished. So let's start off with our option to align and merge IFCs. As I've said before, Navisworks was the tool of choice. And this is where the surprise comes in, because this was not really what Navis's core competency is, which is clash detection. But you know what? It's proved to be surprisingly effective. So Revit was exported to NWC, appended into Navisworks. So we had a mixed bag of my NWCs and the consultants' IFCs. All their alignments, locations were verified and exported out of Navisworks. So let's go on to talk about the export process. Let's see what happens, because remember, the desired result is a federated IFC for clash detection. Now, let's explore exporting to IFC from Revit. Some of the things that I'm going to call out, some of the real biggies, are that you can export, you can choose the phase, the specific phase to export information. You can choose to export or not to export linked files. And if you export them, you can export the links as separate IFCs, or you can export them together in a single IFC project. You can pick the geographic coordinate base. It could be shared coordinates. It could be project base point. In our case, it was internal origin. And this allows you to really, really pinpoint the actual location of the model. Now, here's another option which was available to us, and that is Diroots 1 Pro Sheets. And you may think, hey, Revit already has quite a few of these features natively, right? And
Yeah.
but when you're exporting, for example, you're exporting to IFC, you've got all of these options, and you click, go to screen, click, go to screen, click, go to screen. Whereas with Pro Sheets, you have got all of those options on the same screen. Not only that, you have got more than one option of file format to export to, and it's all in the same location. Just fewer mouse clicks, a lot less scrolling. It's so much more convenient. So yes, I would definitely recommend Pro Sheets for this.
Yeah, it's free too. I mean, that's the best
Yes,
part. Yeah.
that certainly is.
Yeah,
Um,
so the tips about like exporting IFCs from Revit were very helpful. Thanks. I mean, just in general, and what the advantages and disadvantages are. But in your research, were you able to unearth any non-Revit tools like you just talked about Pro Sheets and stuff?
uh-huh.
How can you tell us about a little bit of those?
Yeah, let's go back to Navis, and we're going to be talking a lot about
Oh,
Navis as we go along. From Revit, I can actually publish dedicated views to Navisworks. Right now, in this example, you can see that I have got a dedicated 3D view, which shows the content from different disciplines. I can set up a publish set, and in the publish set, I can select which views to include and which views to not include. And once that is done, we have exported to NWC. So to start with, you do need to make sure that the export to Navis add-in is installed, and the NWCs that you create will have the exact same names as the views from the published set. So don't forget to give the views a name that makes sense to you.
yeah.
Now, you can easily append and merge NWCs from the previous operations, and then we can export IFCs from Navisworks.
Oh, that's right. I mean, I asked you about like how did you achieve that again for the, exporting IFCs since it's not native export?
And I told you that we are going to come right back to this. So here's our plan. We would use a third-party software. And after quite a bit of research, I decided on using the CodeMill IFC exporter. Now, CodeMill, it's available on the Autodesk App Store. It has a 15-day trial period, which we used and found it to be satisfactory. It has a variety of options. You can purchase a single license or a network license, or a rental or a permanent license, depending upon what it is that you need. Now, the beauty of this is that my federated model, it had a bunch of Navis files in it, a bunch of NWCs, and had a bunch of IFCs in it. Looking at the selection tree, you are given the option to select which of these appended files you would want to export to IFC, and it works really, really fast. It works so much faster than exporting out of Revit. It was absolutely amazing. Now, besides that, let's take a look at some tools that I'd used to test in view the output of what we had. Another Die Roots product, Die This is an online free IFC viewer that was developed to manage BIM models. This can be opened from the website. You would need a free account to sign in and to use this viewer. It supports IFC 2x3, IFC 4. You can set your preferences to control and override how elements are displayed. You can even set materials to be transparent to get a better view of your model. You can add multiple IFCs and view them, which is really, really nice. And my favorite feature, you can actually define a cutting plane, and you can live section your way through the model and see what's going on inside. I thought this was a neat little tool to see what is going on. Another tool that I'd explored was Bonsai. This used to be called Blender BIM. Now, to use Bonsai, you need to have Blender BIM 3.6 or newer. Once you've got Blender BIM installed on your machine, download Bonsai.
Mm.
Bonsai will self-install onto Blender BIM. You open Blender BIM and all the tools are available to you.
Oh,
It's
cool.
free, it's open source. You can open, append, save IFC files. Very, very helpful. And it is also compatible with a variety of operating systems. You can use it on Linux, Mac, Windows, and this is just a great tool for IFC authoring, not
Well,
just
but
viewing and
Blender on
testing.
its own is amazing, by the way, Rina.
Very
I
much
mean,
so.
just I have solved so many problems. I mean, some modeling issues or generating terrains and stuff like that in the past, when there were no easy ways to do that. So it's been a
Exactly.
very handy in your toolbox.
Exactly. And now, last but not least, we've got BIM Vision. Again, another freeware, I'm sorry. It's another freeware. It's compatible with a variety of authoring software because this comes with a set of add-ins that can talk to a variety of file formats. Now, remember, the add-ins are not free. It's just the base BIM Vision that is free. But I thought that this had potential and this was really, really helpful.
So the IFC merge and stuff were paid then at that point for within it?
What was that?
The IFC merge as well as the any of the IFC tools were add-ins were paid products then at that point in it.
Up to a point.
Okay.
Some of them were paid, but for instance, BIM Vision, it is paid after a point.
Ah, okay, got it. Cool. I mean that's like a lot of information. I mean, what I realize is that IFCs is king when you are, especially in the Europe and other non-US areas. Well, metric system too, except like
Of
that's
course,
the makes it so
we
much
can't
easier
forget
to
that.
work with. I think I'm getting a big proponent of it here too, since now I'm in Canada and working with metric system. I'm just like makes it so much easier to do the math and
There you
everything.
go.
It don't
There
have to
you
deal
go.
with
I mean,
fractions anymore.
right. I mean, this was really a challenging learning process, just the whole aspect of being able to export and manage various levels of IFC at various levels of the project in order to promote coordination between a large team and especially with the team members who are across the ocean and in Europe. So, there was a lot of experimentation, a lot of trial and error that happened, but hey, we got the job done. And you know what? Now I'm not afraid of IFCs anymore. So
So
in
Rina, just
closing,
one last
mhm,
question on this
yes.
though. I mean, like, so in overall, I mean, Navisworks. I mean, I know it's an amazing tool. It has so many core but yes, clash detection is its core
Mhm,
functionality, but also, I mean, I know with a good tip would be to use. I mean, like when we were working with FBX files and
uh-huh.
other files from Revit to geolocate. There were some issues with transferring to InfraWorks at one point, so we used basically Revit to Navisworks, and
Mhm.
Navisworks exported information as an FBX to
That is
InfraWorks. Worked very beautifully because Navisworks can have geo-coordinated FBX files, export it.
That
Revit
that is a
cannot do
great tip.
that. So you bring that in Navis and export out of it. So I mean, Navis is an amazing tool, not just for what its core compatibilities are, but also to process and make the models simpler too.
Don't underestimate it. I never thought I would be cheering for Navisworks, but now I am cheering for Navisworks. So in closing, guys, um, just want to convey thanks to you for your time and attention, to our teams at Avon Marsh and Gannett Fleming, and our colleagues in the Autodesk Expert League community, the LinkedIn community, because we never stop learning from them. And finally, a huge thanks, a huge cheer, as a matter of fact, for Ralph, Emma, and Audrey. As always, thank you for this opportunity to share, to teach, and to toot our own horns. Thanks again.